What's kicking, everybody? We are back for another episode of Pickin' Fights. I'm Keith, joined as always by Tom. Tom, how are you tonight?
Terrible. I was a straggler, got my COVID vaccine recently, having some shitty side effects. And, you roll the dice and sometimes things don't always come up aces for you. What can you do?
Yeah, it's probably because your immune system is so weak, but, it's all right. You're going to spend a day or two in bed. Maybe you get some time off from work. More time to talk about picking fights and do some research. Joe is our wait. What were you about to say, Tom? I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, like, I'm over here sick. I'm quite literally down, and you figuratively kick me while I'm down, trying to insult my immune system with something that's not even backed by any type of credible science whatsoever. So
Hey, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. Maybe you just need to take more vitamins, dude.
I'll keep that. Noted.
All right, I'll send you over some vitamins.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, you know what? This would be a really good time to, ask. Maybe we should get a vitamin sponsor. Maybe we should reach out and we can start giving you vitamins, and then over time, as you get better, then that's like the proven outcome of these vitamins, and we'll be like the number one vitamin sponsored podcast out there. What do you think?
We should start with ivermectin.
Oh, you mean the horse drug?
Yeah. Give me some horse. What do you call it? What was it? It was horse.
Horse dewormer.
Dewormer. That's what it was. Yep. Let's go.
Yeah, I think you're supposed to take the whole bar when you get that from the pet store.
It's toothpaste. Don't you brush with it?
Oh, I don't know. I've never had it before. I thought it looked like a big old candy bar, apple flavored, especially for horses and partially for human consumption. Joe is our very special guest tonight. Joe is a handsome devil. Joe is one of my good friends from college. He has been told, and I've told him personally, I'm one of the people that's told him this, that he looks like Action Bronson. Tom, do you agree? Does he look like Action Bronson?
Maybe a little bit. I see the resemblance. I see what you're going for. White guy, beard.
Yeah.
I can see what you're getting at.
We need to shave his head and give him some head tattoos, and then he'll really look like Action Bronson.
Yeah, that's what you're missing.
I got to get a full sleeve on my right arm.
Oh, he's covered, bro. He's
covered.
Everywhere, yeah. He's this kind of ties in nicely because he is a recently added character on UFC 4 fighter. And you can see him shirtless in that game, and he's covered in tattoos. But I wouldn't advise going up against Francis Ngannou with him. His chin is not that strong. Joe, how are you tonight?
I'm feeling quite well, boys. I am just getting out of my last class for the evening, and honestly, I couldn't feel better.
Good. Well, neither of you asked me how I was doing. I'm doing pretty good.
I don't really care.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I mean, I'm not in bed.
After those handful of insults you hurled at me earlier, man.
You know what? It's all right because at least I'm not in bed being a little baby today. I went to work and now I'm here. I'm not in bed laying down like a little whiny baby. So if you're watching this video, I just want to remind you guys, subscribe. If you don't, Tom is going to show up at your house and cry a lot. And then comment down below what you think of our video. If Tom's being a baby, or if you got the vaccine and maybe I'm being a little bit too harsh, I probably am. Probably not. If I'm being a little bit too harsh, comment down below if you had little whiny baby side effects. Because usually Tom, I give him credit in the past. He's a tough guy, but tonight, kind of second guessing myself on that. Sorry, Tom.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, dude. We'll see. Maybe I'll get my shot and maybe I'll be in bed too. Not. But we'll kick it off as we always do with our prelim locks. Tom, do you have any prelim locks? I know you spent a lot of time in bed today doing a lot of research. So is there anybody that you found that you feel really confident in from the prelims?
Yeah, I think Montel Jackson is going to beat JP Bays. They're on the prelims. Ultimately, I think if you were JP Bays, this is a fight that you probably shouldn't have taken. Montel Jackson is just overall he's a much better fighter. He's bigger, he's longer, he's more experienced, he's fought better opponents. I mean, looking over at Tapology, and sorry if I sound a little slow. Like I said, recovering from my horrible vaccine shot. 90% of the 1,100 people on Tapology are voting with Montel Jackson. The odds, they're not going to be too good, but that's why, you know, it's a lock. Montel Jackson, I think the odds are having him sitting right around minus 489 is the best. I see it as high as minus 650. So I have Montel Jackson as a definite lock, probably good for a parlay, but yeah, I think that's one that's, you know, you could probably even make it a little better by going Montel Jackson by KO. But yeah, I think that's a pretty safe one.
All right, yeah, I like that a lot. You know, I always think when I hear the name Montel, I always think of I think his name was Montel Williams, the guy that would come on those like different TV channels, you know, the paid programming at 3 a.m. and tell you how to save your money. Do you guys know who I'm talking about? The bald fella. Well, people at home, look him up. Montel Williams. He knows how to make you rich. I never reached out to him for his services, but you know, after the last week that I had betting football, probably could have used it. So I got one, and that is Emily Whitmire versus Hannah Goldie. It's actually the first fight on the prelims. Hannah Goldie has let me down before, but I don't think she's going to let me down this week. I hope not, at least. But I do feel very, very confident in her to win this one and actually to win it by decision. So odds for that haven't come out yet, like method of victory odds. But I really like her to just completely lay it on Emily Whitmire the entire time. She lands more strikes per minute. She lands more significant strikes in a fight. She absorbs more, which really isn't that great for her. Her defense isn't really as good, and her grappling isn't nearly as good. But her takedown defense is solid enough to keep Emily Whitmire standing up in this fight. You know, Emily Whitmire is good with submission. She's got a really good jiu-jitsu game, but I'm personally feeling that Hannah Goldie, especially after last pretty much abysmal performance. Well, it wasn't abysmal, but she lost. Emily Whitmire's performance, on the other hand, she looked pretty bad in her last fight. So I really like Hannah Goldie to bounce back. You know, she's like really trying to make a name for herself. She's on I think Women's Fitness magazine and all over the place, like, you know, on all these different magazine covers and billboards and stuff. She's got quite a physique. You know, she's yoked. You know, hearing some speculation out there that she's potentially on some PEDs, but I won't say whether or not I believe in that. Anyways, Hannah Goldie, like her to bounce back from that last one, dominate Emily Whitmire on the feet. One thing that I really like to keep in mind with Hannah Goldie in this fight is that her average fight time is 15 minutes, meaning that she's gone the distance pretty much every time that she's fought. Whereas Emily Whitmire, her average fight time is 6 minutes. So if this does end up going to decision, then Hannah Goldie naturally is going to have the better gas tank just from being in there longer. You know, she's been in those 15-minute fights. So I really like Hannah Goldie in this one. Hannah 24K Goldie. Tom, do you have any more for us, or are you just going to end it off with Montel?
No, I actually have two more. The next one I have is Nicholas Mata over Cameron Von Camp. And if you excuse me, I went with the analog version for the notes as compared to the digital one for these. But Nicholas Mata, he's been in the UFC for about 10 months, but he hasn't gotten an opponent. This is a guy who's coming off Dana White's Contender Series. He got his contract and then has been just through, you know, one thing or another, haven't been able to get an opponent. But basically, he's been able to sit with the comfortability of knowing he's in the UFC and just train and work on his craft. Camp is the bigger guy. You know, he's fought at like 165, 170 before, and they're coming down in at 155. So, you know, the bigger guys that come down a weight class, it's potentially a problem as far as, you know, stamina issues, and then, you know, speed, and then just overall, you know, getting used to your body at a different weight class. It takes time to get used to. And in your first fight down at a new weight class, I don't know how I feel about that against a guy who's, you know, been basically training just for this kind of limit. I mean, there's always going to be pressure when you're in the UFC, but, you know, relatively stress-free. You know, Mata, he has really, really good body work, really, really good combinations. He is very aggressive. He likes to put it on people. He has very solid movement, and he's got a really good chin, to be honest with you. And on the other side, Cameron Camp, he is solid, but you know, his opponents up until this point have been really bad. They haven't been very notable. And when you have a guy who fights unnotable, or guys with, you know, just barely above, you know, just barely a winning record, what does that say about what your coaches think of you and your skill set? And then now you turn around and you drop down from 170 to 155, divisions where we normally see people go from 155 to 170 and excel. I think generally speaking, the idea is that 155 is probably more talented at this current time in the UFC than the 170 division. So you have a guy going from 170, wasn't able to cut it there, didn't fight very good opponents, and I was going down to 155 against a guy who made it in on the Contender Series and has been focusing just for this. For those reasons, I like Nicholas Mata.
Yeah, I like Nicholas Mata a lot too. I like that pick. Good job, Tom. I have another one. I like a guy that goes by one name, very much like Sting or Seal. His name is Rangju. I like him a lot against Dakota Bush on Saturday. And you know what? My logic here might be a little bit flawed, and some people at home watching this might be like, dude, what are you talking about? But the UFC is really making a big push to push Chinese fighters right now. Chinese fighters, they're coming out strong. China is really like becoming a factory basically for, you know, good fighters. Some might say a sweatshop for good fighters. So Rangju, I really like him in this one. He's got a good record, 17-4. He's coming off a loss. Dakota Bush, really not nearly as good, you know, especially on his feet. Rangju is winning 65% of his fights by KO or TKO. And plus, he's got a little bit of jiu-jitsu with him, too. He's winning by 24% by submission. I really just think that this is a sacrificial lamb in the form of Dakota Bush for Rangju. Rangju, catchy name, one name, it sells. And the UFC is looking to sell these types of guys. So depending on what the odds are when they come out, probably going to sprinkle a little bit on Rangju. Tom, what's your last one?
My last one is going to be Mike Rodriguez over Tafon Nchikwu. The reason for that is that Nchikwu he's one of those guys who, you know, kind of similar to my last pick, is yo-yoing weight classes. He was over there. This is a fight at 205. Nchikwu was at 205, couldn't quite cut it at 205, moved down to 185, had a difficult fight there. Now is moving back up to 205. And that's a big weight jump, right? You know, we talked about 155 to 170. That's 15 pounds. Now you're talking about 185 to 205. That's a 20-pound weight, gap that, your body was set for 205. You dieted down to get to 185, and now you're yo-yoing back up to 205 against Mike Rodriguez, who's a guy who's long. He's going to have an 82.5-inch reach advantage, his reach is 82.5. So he basically has a 5.5-inch reach advantage. He's 6'4" compared to Nchikwu's 6 feet. He's going to have a longer legs. He's built for the weight class. He's been at the weight class. He's coming off a couple losses, but at the end of the day, I just think Mike Rodriguez is going to get it done using the longer reach. I think Tavon tried to utilize the clinch when he's the smaller guy, but that's something that Mike Rodriguez actually really excels at. He's really good with short shots. I'm picking Mike Rodriguez.
Yeah, I like that. Mike Rodriguez is great in the clinch, and dude, I don't know why you would try and engage with him there if he's that good. The other thing is too is like you don't want to be a yo-yo in weight classes, going up and down constantly, fight after fight. At some point, your cardio is going to take a hit, and I think this is the fight where that's gonna take effect. So, yeah, Rodriguez, love the pick there. I was going to go with him as well. I'm glad that you feel confident because I didn't feel confident enough in him to make this one of my prelim locks. I went with Rangju instead, which, we'll see how that goes. Joe, I got a question for you. First off, 2 questions actually. Firstly, what did you think of our prelim locks? Will you be betting with us this weekend?
I think I'm definitely betting with Mike Rodriguez, purely based off the fact that his opponent has been yo-yoing. Just that simple, idea is just a bad thing to follow. You don't want to be jumping around weights. Your body won't be able to get used to how you move. Like you won't know how your body works all the time because you're yo-yoing in weight.
Yeah. Well, I like that too, and solid logic all around. That's enough to like make me say, okay, let me go with Rodriguez there. I got another question for you. So, for anybody who doesn't know out there, Joey is an aspiring actor. He's very theatrical. I saw him in a few productions. Who'd you play again? Was that King Lear?
That was King Charlemagne.
Right. Dude, you fucking crushed it. So well that like I got so absorbed in the character that I forgot his name. But Joe, if you were a UFC fighter, would you embrace like an actor mentality where you come in with a gimmick, maybe like a Sugar Sean O'Malley or a Patty Pimblett type, where like you embody this persona? Or would you simply focus on like honing your craft, just trying to be the best fighter possible?
I think I would work on honing my craft
Okay.
more, because the whole gimmick behind everything, what it does, that should come in a way natural to someone, but being able to fight, to a certain level and having that hunger to win, that doesn't come overnight.
All right. Fair enough, dude. It really makes you wonder, is like the O'Malley, personality, or Patty in particular, taking the world by storm, calling everybody lad, lizard, and sausages and everything in between, really makes you wonder, is that like naturally who he is, or is that somebody that he's trying to be? I really think that's naturally just who he is. He's a Liverpool Scouser. So, what are you about to
Hey man,
say?
hey man. Sometimes, many people say, actions speak larger than words.
True. That's a good way to put it. That's a very good way to put it. So we're gonna move on up to the main card of this UFC fight night now. So the first fight we got Nate Maness versus Tony Gravely. Tom, what do you think about this one?
You sure that's the first fight, or is it Joaquin Buckley versus Antonio Arroyo?
So when I'm looking at the UFC website just to get the what looks to be the most current layout of this fight card, it says that
Oh,
that's the first fight on here.
I'm looking at another one that has the Cameron Van Camp Nicholas Mata fight on the main card too.
Yeah, I mean I'm looking at the UFC website, but
Okay, either way, yeah, we could do that one. I just wasn't prepared to go with that one yet. All right, no
oh,
problem.
sorry.
No, all good, not your fault. So who we do? We're doing.
Tony Gravely and Nate Maness.
You know what? Was that added recently?
Yeah, I believe that was on the prelims before tonight. You know what? We can just say fuck that one.
Yeah, because when I was doing my research, I was doing based off of what the main cards were, and then cherry picking the ones I liked. So I didn't really do too much research on this one. I don't know why they do that. Why they'll just be like, oh, by the way, we're just gonna move this one to the main card now.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about that for a minute instead. It's pretty fucking annoying because like you start looking forward to seeing a guy that you like on the main card, or like for us in particular having a show, we get prepped for it a certain way, and then last minute they're like, "Oh, here you go, boom, we're gonna switch these two guys out. One guy is now entirely off the card. There's gonna be a last minute fight in there." And it's a little bit strange, but I guess when they figure that it's not so high profile for these fight nights, they can get away with doing that kind of stuff.
I just mean when they literally switch the placement of two fights.
Yeah.
I
mean,
like they'll literally just take this one and switch it on the main card, and take this one and put it on the prelims. I mean, I guess there's probably a good reason why, but like, yeah, it definitely bit me in the butt here.
yeah, it's all right. Well, are you prepared for Joaquin Buckley and Antonio Arroyo?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, then we'll move on up to that one. So we got a middleweight fight between Joaquin Buckley and Antonio Arroyo. I'm personally going with Joaquin Buckley in this one. I feel like Arroyo is slightly better on his feet, but he has no technical grappling whatsoever. He also has shown like some really bad cardio in his last couple of fights. And Buckley is way more of a takedown threat. Is he much better on the ground than Arroyo? Potentially. He's not like a crazy good wrestler, crazy good grappler. but he does have one of my favorite moves of all time in his arsenal, ready to pull out because of Arroyo's lack of grappling, and that's like the takedown fake. Either go underneath with an uppercut after that, depending on where Arroyo puts his hand. Say he's really prepared to like try and defend a takedown, potentially sprawl. He can come up from underneath, or he can go up over the top and hit Arroyo with like a crazy overhand type of strike. He's also just got more power in his hands and he's got more reach. So I'm rolling with Joaquin Buckley on this one.
Yeah, last time Antonio Arroyo fought, I think I picked him to win, and he lost. He's on a 2-fight losing streak. He just doesn't show to have enough, fight IQ to get it done where it needs to be. He claimed to be a striker, but he's just really not that technically sound when it comes down to it. He has almost no ground game. He uses distance, but it's really been lackluster up to this point. Really going to decisions, seeming like he's one of those guys that like will get beaten up, maybe steal one round, but probably lose all three. But it's like kind of close, but you're kind of sure that the guy lost, but he'll still do this after every round like he won. When it's like, okay, the guy maybe didn't get his ass handed to him, but he clearly lost, but he's still walking around like he won. And just there's a disconnect there. And, Joaquin Buckley, he's got that amazing knockout where, the spinning back head kick that was like knockout of the year last year. Like you said, he has a solid ground game. I just think Buckley, he's a solid guy. He's a little bit more compact and dense. I think he's going to out wrestle Antonio Arroyo, and I think he gets it done.
Yeah. Are you rolling with us, Joe, with Joaquin Buckley, or are you going to go fuck you guys and pick Antonio Arroyo?
I'm gonna roll with you guys because from what Tom just said, or he's after each round or whatever, he's throwing up his arms as if he did something spectacular. It to me it doesn't seem like he really has that I want this spirit. You know what I mean? Like to me it just seems like he's just there getting his check. And honestly, I don't see much of a winning decision in his favor.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, I don't even think it'll reach decision. I have a feeling it's
Yeah.
going to end up on the ground, probably TKO, Joaquin Buckley just on top, ground strikes. Joe, you may not know this. You may. I'm sure a few people at home don't know this, but all it really takes is 3 unanswered strikes. It's up to the referee's discretion, but 3 unanswered strikes to get called for a TKO. So Joaquin Buckley could just be sitting on top of Antonio Arroyo's chest in like a full mount position, raining down strikes. If Antonio Arroyo doesn't fight back or try to change positions, then whoever the ref is, up to their discretion, but they could call it a TKO in that moment. So, I have a feeling that's probably whether it could be, a straight up knockout, game over, Arroyo asleep on his feet. It could end up on the ground, TKO, but I have a feeling it's going to end, and it's going to end with Joaquin Buckley victorious. So next up, we got Arman Sarukian versus Christos Giagos. Tom, who do you got in this one? I was a little bit shakier here.
It's going to be Arman Sarukian, and it's not a tough call at all. This, he's just much more well-rounded. I don't see him getting KO'd. I don't see him losing a decision. He has a much better quality of opponents. It's really just a mismatch in fighting here, and really, it's just like, well, Arman, we need to have him fight somebody, and nobody ranked or really his caliber wants to fight him. We see a lot of these with these Russian, wrestler heavy guys, with power in their hands that, when they're in the unranked aspect, when they're just signed to the UFC, they have a really difficult time getting opponents. And, it's the same, Islam Makhachev comes to mind. There's a lot of these Dagestani guys, really anyone whose last name ends in a V, a Magomedov in their name, probably having the same problem. But yeah, Arman Sarukian, he's going to win this fight. It's not going to be close. It's probably going to be in the first round. All credit all due to Christos Giagos. He's actually not a bad fighter. He's a really solid fighter, but he's just, there's levels to this game, man. And Christos Giagos is just fighting a little bit too much above the belt. Arman Sarukian, 24 years old. He's going to have the reach advantage. He's got the youth on his side. I think he's probably even got, technically he's got less fights, but he's got a much better. Look at Matt Frivola. Davi Ramos, Olivier Aubin Mercenaire. He has a loss to Islam Makhachev, which, is his first UFC fight. It was a loss to Islam Makhachev. Like, okay. And he actually did pretty well in that fight too. He put up solid wrestling opposition to Islam Makhachev, and nobody does that. So that's just a hats off to him. And then you kind of just go through, everyone that Chris Giagos fought, and it's just not the same caliber. You have Sean Soriano, 14-6. Carlton Manos, again, not somebody who's of the same caliber as, like, an Islam Makhachev, obviously. So it's just a mismatch. Arman needed someone to fight. Chris Giagos is just going in there and looking to put on a good show here. But Arman Tsarukyan is going to win, and it's really not that much a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, I thought there might have been a little bit more going into it, but yeah, that Islam Makhachev performance really spoke volumes. And one of the things that stands out the most when I was looking at it, though, is like Giagos just has really bad takedown defense, in the octagon and on paper when you look at the stat sheet. So you're right. I think Tsarukyan, he's probably going to end up ending this fight, finishing it by snatching maybe a neck or a limb. And at the very least, he'll sit all over Giagos for 3 rounds and, just win it by decision just by controlling him.
Yeah, I think it's going to be probably a first round TKO, to be honest with you.
Oh, okay. Well, I like that. I think, maybe a submission is in the cards.
Looking at the odds here, I mean, Tsarukyan is minus 700.
Jesus.
That was at opening. Now he's minus 800 on Bovada. I mean, I don't believe, I could be wrong, I don't believe he's a big submission guy, Arman. He's more of a, Khabib style, get you on the ground and ground and pound you out. I mean, he definitely, I'm looking through his career here. He's got a couple rear naked chokes, some guillotines, but very basic submissions, and those are professional. And the most recent one from that was in 2017. Everything else has just been decision or TKO punches. He's got a head kick wing over Felipe Oliveri. So, I mean, overall, the guy, he's just an overwhelming presence. He's going to overwhelm Christoph Giagos, and that's really that.
All right. Shit. Okay. So we're going with Tsarukyan by TKO. I like it. Joe, what do you think?
Honestly, I'm gonna have to roll with you guys as well on this one, especially with what Tom said about how his youth. To me, youth equals more stamina. You're not as old. You don't have as much wear and tear on your body as someone who's older would have. And that, honestly, that's pretty much it for me.
All right. Fair enough. It's one of the things that had me a little bit shaky going into this, though, I will say, is like when the odds are extremely crazy like that, like you're talking minus 800 right now for Tsarukyan, it does make me think that maybe something a little bit weird can happen.
Not with the Russian dudes, man. Maybe if it was an American guy, but those Russians, they're so regimented, dude, that they're not emotional. They're completely separated from the task at hand. Like they're probably in somewhat hypnotized, some, to some capacity, but
yeah, definitely possible. Imagine there's actually just like a bunch of fighter hypnotists going around Russia and like Eastern Europe, just maybe. Like, oh, you want to be pro fighter? Okay. And they dangle like a little chain in front of them. That would be
a medallion. A Russian medallion.
Yeah, with like a bear on it or something. That would be quite a profession, just like some kind of gypsy that goes around hypnotizing fighters. Mm-hmm. I would like to go to that kind of gypsy. That actually happened to Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson was hypnotized into being a fighter. Yep. So not too far off the truth there with that one. Mm-hmm. So next up, we got Ariane Lipski versus Mandy Bohm. Now, this is a little bit tougher, but not just because of like, the odds are looking this way, or this is more so because there's a little bit of an unknown here with Mandy Bohm. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this might be her second fight in the UFC, or is it her first?
I think it is her first.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense because she still doesn't have a picture up on the UFC website. But Mandy Bohm, she was, kind of killing it over in the regional circuit in Germany. She came out of that undefeated. this really feels like a sacrifice of Ariane Lipski. And when you look at Lipski, she doesn't really fight well against like technically sound women that have one major discipline. This really was shown off in her fight against Montana De La Rosa, where Montana, she's a NCAA athlete at heart, or NCAA wrestler, and just took Lipski to deep waters and drowned her in the corner, basically up against the cage. Wouldn't let her get out of there for a while, and eventually ended that by TKO. So it's one of those things where like technically sound women with one major discipline, they seem to be able to unleash that against Ariane Lipski. It's tough. It's going to be a tough one because there is a bit of an unknown here, but I like Mandy Bohm, and her technicality enough to do very similar against Lipski that Montana De La Rosa did. Take her to deep waters, bring her up against the cage. But I also feel like her inexperience might make her a little bit hesitant to, do anything too crazy, where it's going to be her laying on top for 3 rounds. We got to keep in mind that control time is judged heavily for women's fights, and most likely win this by decision via control time on the ground. What do you think about that?
Well, I definitely agree with you that I think Mandy Bohm is going to win. I mean, ultimately, she's kind of the bigger fighter here. She's actually the older fighter. She's 32 compared to Ariane Lipski is 27. But Mandy Bohm, she's undefeated. Like I said, it's kind of hard to tell, the caliber of her opponents. Bouncing around. She was in Bellator. She was in some other promotions, obviously on her way up. Mandy's basically green. She's newer to this at the professional level. But she's coming over from Germany. She's basically just built kind of bigger than Lipski. And honestly, Ariane Lipski, as much as it pains me to say, just really can't seem to get it together against quality opponents. Like you said, got beaten by Montana De La Rosa. And honestly, Montana De La Rosa is not, no, I don't know if anybody's writing home about Montana De La Rosa, especially after her last performance in her main event. But Montana De La Rosa lost, and Antonina Shevchenko. That's not Valentina Shevchenko. That's Antonina Shevchenko. And remember my rule about 2 siblings not being able to be good at the same time. And last time I checked, Valentina Shevchenko is still the queen. So a big loss to Antonina. You have wins over Luana Carolina, Isabella. I can't even see her last name. My eyes are going on me. Losses to Molly McCann, Joanne Calderwood. I mean, these are fighters that if you want to be at the top of your division and you want to, go for a title, like Mandy Bohm is coming in fresh. Those are the people you got to be beating. Ariane Lipski hasn't been beating him. She's still 27. She can still turn around. She can still learn something new. But I think with the size mismatch and just the most recent performances we've seen from her, I gotta go Mandy Bohm.
Yeah, definitely. You said your eyes are going, bro. Is that a new side effect of the Johnson and Johnson vaccine?
It's just you got the fatigue or whatever. So like looking at the screen and then it's moving around and all the stuff. It's I don't know, maybe I need my blue light glasses, but I don't want to get up and get them because I have a headache.
Dude, it would kind of suck to host a podcast where you have to like read things off a screen with a guy that's going blind from the vaccine. So, make sure you're eating your carrots and checking up on your eye health. All right. I need you, dude. I need
Gotcha.
you.
I'll go for I'll go see my optometrist soon.
Okay, good. Joe, what do you think? Are you going to ride with us on Bohm, or are you going to take the UFC, tenured Ariane Lipski, who probably still has a shot in this? I don't think it's as clear cut as we made it seem.
I'm gonna go with Lipski on this one, boys.
Ooh, okay.
I am one of the factors of my decision is because Bohm.
She's hot.
I mean, like, come on now.
That's what you're getting at. That's what you're going for.
But Bohm, from what you guys been saying, this is what her first professional UFC fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
First in the UFC.
First in the UFC. It's her first time around and shit. I think Lipski has a slight favor. She's been around. Although she has been losing, so, there are, the underdog tales. You never know.
Yeah, no, good point. And there are moments in like those last couple of Lipski losses too, where like, I personally am a Montana De La Rosa fan. She's up there on like my, favorite couple of fighters. I've got a lot of those female fighters that I really root for and really pull for all the time. And if you've been watching the show for a while, you know that I love women's MMA. It's my favorite women's sport at the moment. We'll see what developments happen over the next couple of years and how that changes. But I really like Montana De La Rosa, and there were a few moments where I thought Ariane Lipski did have a chance, but in this one, Joe, I think you're going to be wrong. I'm sorry. So next up, we got Jan Kutalaba versus Devin Clark, and I'm rolling with Jan Kutalaba, the Hulk. Dude, he's called the Hulk for a reason, and it's not just because he painted himself green and screamed in people's faces at face-offs. He's an animal. He's strong, and he's strong for 3 solid rounds. He's got great cardio, and his first round strength in particular is really just off the charts. Like, you got to look at what he did against Dustin Jacoby, however the fuck you say it. That was a great fight for Jan Kutalaba. Again, his cardio looked great. Strong hands, especially in the first round. He's a bad dude, and he's done bad things to people. He's like taken other guys in the light heavyweight division and just kind of ragdolled them around for a couple of rounds. And he has the ability in this one to bring Devin Clark, who isn't really as good at grappling as Jan Kutalaba, down to the ground or up against the cage. And either way, like when he gets guys in those vulnerable positions, he just starts wailing on them. So one other thing we got to keep in mind too, Clark, he's taken a lot of damage over his career. He's been knocked out a few times. He got knocked out by Jan Blachowicz back when Jan was like viewed as a little bit of a journeyman making his way up. He's gotten submitted by Anthony Smith, who's fighting next. He's the main event on this card. But his chin and his body have just taken so much damage over the past couple of years. And your chin, I mean, we've mentioned this before, Tom, your chin can only take so much damage over your fighting career.
And it doesn't get better.
No, it doesn't. After a while, that does begin to catch up with you. Where like, you see some guys that get beat up like that their whole career, and then they step into a fight and it's like one punch, lights out. So I'm not saying that's going to happen here for Devin Clark, but if Jan Kutalaba does, come out as strong as he always has in the first round, it could be lights out early for Devin Clark. And another thing we got to keep in mind, we've mentioned this before. Tom, where's Jan Kutalaba from again?
He's from Georgia.
Yeah, those Georgian fighters, dude, they are on the up and up.
Well, he's from Moldova, technically.
Okay, well, he still walks out with the Georgian flag. It's actually pretty sweet what he hoisted up after he beat Dustin Jacoby. And that was a American and Georgian flag fused together, if I'm not wrong. Really like the guy. He's a maniac. No words spoken at face-offs, just screams. Literally, Joe, that's all he does. Jan Kutalaba, he gets up in your face. You'll have some guys that they'll go to face-offs and they'll say things like Francis Ngannou. He got up in someone's face and was like, "You go to sleep. You're going to sleep," and that was it. Jan Kutalaba, he'll get a few feet away. He doesn't get as close as some other guys in those face-offs. Screams, flexes as hard as he can, then gets up really close and screams again. You want to talk about mental warfare, like Sun Tzu type of stuff. I think Jan Kutalaba is one of the masters of mental warfare, and just getting into a guy's head. Like the man literally came out painted in green to a face-off and won that fight. So I like Jan Kutalaba a lot. I like him in this fight. I like the Georgian to get it done against Devin Clark on Saturday.
So he's Moldovan. I don't want to get any Georgians or Moldovans mad. But I mean, that is, a Russian, Russian adjacent type Eastern European country, right? So, it's something, but let's not go angering Georgians because those are the last people I want to anger. But yeah, listen, Jan Kutalaba, he's been looking a lot better as of late. If I had one criticism for him going up to now is that he kind of waned in fights. And that was kind of the reason why he lost to Justin Jacoby is he kind of started to fall off in that third round. But he was winning the other 2 rounds prior, is why it ended in a draw. But at the end of the day, I like Kutalaba. I think he's been improving his stamina as he's been going on. Being that he's only 27, it makes me believe that, your stamina still can get better. It's not like he's 36 trying to improve his stamina like some people. And honestly, Clark, he's not the biggest light heavyweight, and Jan kind of is. Jan is solid. Kutalaba, he got a 10-8 in the first against Dustin Jacoby, and Dustin Jacoby's a formidable opponent. A 10-8 in the first. If he could just manage his stamina a little bit better, so that we can carry more into the third, should there be a third, I think Jan Kutalaba is going to be a lot better and be a real force to be reckoned with. Like I said, one more. What was I going for here? Clark, like I said, Clark is solid, but he has losses to Anthony Smith, and it just showed that like he's really not on that like level. And I talk about this a lot, that there's levels in fighting, especially in the divisions. And I think Jan Kutalaba is maybe. I think you have like your tops of the divisions, your Jan Blachowicz, Yuri Prohashka. I think right below that you have like 1A, and that's like your Anthony Smiths. And I think Jan Kutalaba is fighting, and he's in like C or B and trying to fight to get into that 1A with Anthony Smith. And I think Devin Clark's just not in there. And for that reason, I think Jan's going to go in there and put on a dominant performance. I think he's going to continue to get better. I think he's going to continue to have good stamina improvements. I think he's gonna, hit Devin Clark hard, and I think he's gonna finish. I think he's gonna finish him.
Sorry, I didn't mean to yell at my Alexa in the middle of that, but she just started dinging and giving me reports about shit. Fucking Alexa, bro. These robots, they're supposed to help our lives, and she's interrupting our show. Fuck you, Alexa.
Dude, I'm telling you, they're listening to us. Everything we do, they can hear it, man.
Yeah, you know what? She probably heard you saying that Anthony Smith is not top tier in the light heavyweight division and disagreed. Although I agree with you on that. Where do you put, just curious, where do you put Glover Teixeira in that? Do you think that he's on par with like the Yuri Prohashkas right now and the Jan Blachowicz of the world?
No, honestly, I think he's in the B category. I think honestly, I hate to say this, and I don't want to seem like I'm like old bashing, but I think if Glover fought Jan, I think Jan wins.
Yeah.
Jan Kutalaba, should I say. I think Jan Blachowicz is going to beat Glover. I mean, Glover's 42, 43 years old, and we see these guys when they get to 42, 43 years old, unless they're on TRT, which they're not in the UFC, not with USADA, they're just not as fast. Yeah, that power is still there, but they're not going to land because the guys that they're fighting are just so much faster. Now, I think Glover Teixeira or Glover Teixeira versus Jan Blachowicz is going to be a closer fight than maybe a Glover versus Jan, because Jan's 27 and he still got all of his speed. Not to say that not to say that Jan Blachowicz doesn't have speed, but at 37, 38 years old, it's not going to be that of a 27-year-old speed. You know what I mean? So I'm interested for that fight, but I really am more interested to see what Yuri Prohashka has to do in the light heavyweight division, more so than Glover Teixeira at this point in his career.
Yeah, well, not to go too far off on a tangent, I'm a big Jan Blachowicz fan, but I think that Yuri Prohashka easily handles Jan Blachowicz. By the way, we have too many Jans running around the UFC.
Yeah, did you notice I was sitting there struggling? I was like, Jan Kutalaba, Jan Blachowicz. There's at least two other Jans that's not coming to my brain right now, but like it's very difficult.
Peter Jan.
He was Piotr for a period of time, and then people are just like, all right, I guess he's Peter.
Yeah, UFC, mainly American. He became Americanized almost as if he crossed over the Ellis Island in the Dana White's office. So, Joe, what do you think about that? Are you going to roll with us with Jan Kutalaba, or are you going to like switch up on us and take Devin Clark like you did the last time?
I'm going to keep with you guys this time. You guys have been saying that Clark is, he's a little run down. He's not in the same league as Jan. You were talking about how his chin, it's not the same. You can only get weaker, can't get stronger. And you said Keith, you were talking about Jan's grapple game, and I honestly think that's it. It might not come down to it, but I definitely believe that's going to be a big factor in this fight.
Yeah, I think so. Looking at like the way that he's finished percentage wise, he's got 80% of his fights or wins coming by KO, TKO. Devin Clark is fighting a little bit longer on average. Most of his wins are coming via decision. But then you also look at like the significant strike numbers, and Jan Kudalaba is outlanding Devin Clark 5.5 almost, or 5.25 to 3.5. So, you can basically just count on Jan Kudalaba in this one to land the heavier strikes, and really just take it to him. Just take it to Devin Clark, whether it be on the ground or on his feet. I think either way, though, Jan Kudalaba probably going to win this one by knockout or TKO. So next up, we got the main event, and that is Anthony Smith versus Spann. I can't remember his first name, and this fucking thing isn't loading. God damn.
Ryan Spann.
You know what? Yeah, Ryan Spann. You know what? That tells you enough about who I'm taking in this one. I'm taking Anthony Smith, and for good reason too. Anthony Smith has been in there with like some of the GOATs, and one GOAT in particular, depending on, what side of the table you sit on. That would be John Jones. I actually gave John Jones a little bit of a tougher fight than some of his other opponents. But I will say this, like, Smith is a nerd, Anthony Smith, he wears his, goofy little glasses, and he talks really nicely about everybody and hopes everybody just has a good time and nobody gets hurt. And, he's a classical style fighter where like he's been in situations where he's been hit with illegal strikes that almost knocked him out. And he could have, pulled an actor move like, Peter Yan, Aljamain Sterling. Yeah, could have rolled around on the floor and, pretended to get knocked out. Joe, as an aspiring actor, I think you might actually, you might get beat in the acting department by Aljamain Sterling. But instead, Anthony Smith, he's been in those moments. He's been in those situations. He gets up and he's like, I want to continue fighting. He's just such a like die on your shield type of guy. Very technically sound, though, especially when it comes to the ground game. We were just talking about Devin Clark. He submitted Devin Clark. He's won lots of fights by submission. And I think that that's how this one's going to go down as well. I think Ryan Spann's pretty good on his feet. And, we do have to keep in mind that, like, this is a 5-round fight, being that it's the main event. I think you could potentially see a situation where Ryan Spann is completely beating up Anthony Smith for, like, the first maybe 2-3 rounds. And then Anthony Smith finds himself in a situation where he's on his back. He's pretty good on his back, especially out of full guard. And finds a way, just, wraps up a limb or potentially goes for a choke. And he especially likes wrapping up those arms too. So I think that might be the way that Anthony Smith gets it done. I'm a little bit shakier on this one. It is the main event for a reason. It is a good matchup. It's not the most exciting fight night main event that we've had in the longest time, but Anthony Smith, I think he's like too big of a nerd. Like, he's going to be watching a lot of film on Ryan Spann and looking for those openings. And I think eventually he is going to find one. And just wrap up Ryan Spann somehow. What do you think, Tom? Who are you rolling with?
Yeah, I think Alex Smith. Jesus. I think Anthony Smith is definitely going to take this. I mean, his name is Lionheart for a reason. And, he's been going through some trials and tribulations as of late. He's had his fair share of lumps. His losses, though, are really against really top quality opponents. Losing to Thiago Santos back in 2018, but then beating, Rashad Evans, Mauricio Rua, lost to John Jones, but then beats Gustafsson by a rear naked choke. Then comes back, loses to Glover Teixeira, ground and pound in the 5th round. But, again, can you really be mad at that? I know I just said all this stuff about Glover and being slow and older and whatnot, but the dude is fighting for a belt, right? So, like, can you really be that upset at that loss from Anthony Smith? And then I think his next loss to Alexander Rakic, not to take anything away from him, but it was like kind of one thing compounding into another. Gets back on track with a triangle choke finish of Devin Clark, beats Jimmy Crute by stoppage by leg injury, looks really, really good and accomplished there. I think we're seeing a rebirth of Anthony Smith. I think he's taken something away from each of those losses. He has a really, really good jab. His confidence is there. Like you said, he's fought the best. He's beaten the best. He almost beat the best in John Jones. So he's been there and tried and true against, UFC top quality legend status opponents. So, Ryan Spann isn't going to freak him out, isn't going to shake him. And like you're saying, Lionheart, he could take a couple punches and then later in the fight come back and win it later on. And that's something that happens when you have the confidence of past opponents to know that you can do it and take it on and weather the storm. Ryan Spann, he's got a split decision win over Smiling Sam Alvey, who, I think that's you got to beat Sam Alvey handily if you want to be a back to the levels conversation. Sam Alvey's in the C-D tier, and you got to beat him if you're going to want to be in the A tier with a 1B or whatever you want to call it, double A tier with Anthony Smith. And just a split decision win where a judge had you losing to Smiling Sam Alvey, I don't think that's acceptable to have very recently in your record when you're going against Anthony Smith. I think you need to be better than that. I don't think Anthony Smith is thought of as highly as he should. Like I said, he had that loss to John Jones, which was a very closely contested fight. Turns around, he beats Gustafsson, but nobody really pays attention to light heavyweight for whatever reason, unless John Jones is fighting. 2 losses to Glover and then to Rakic, and you could see things getting derailed quickly. But I like how he's coming back on. I think he's had some bad luck, but I think that's behind him. I think he's improved. I think he's got confidence. I think he's the better fighter. I think he's better technically. I think he'll do what he wants here, and I think he'll probably win a decision.
Okay, decision is fair enough. I like him to finish the fight, mostly because I do think that we're trying to see, or Anthony Smith is trying to present this reemergence of Anthony Smith, and he does see himself as a potential title contender. So there might be that extra little drive within him. Now he's not stupid where he's gonna make a mistake and be like, I'm gonna make this move that's then a little bit riskier and is gonna open me up to being finished or in a really bad position. But I do think that internally there is this drive where it's like, I've been at the top of this division before. Let me work my way back up. And the best way to do that is winning by finish. We got to keep in mind that there are matchmakers out there, right? And Sean Shelby, and these guys, matchmakers in particular, especially in the UFC, they say, we're not looking to make the champion. We're looking to make contenders. And contenders are the guys that people want to watch. They get invested in their story. And in order to do that, you also have to be an entertaining fighter too. You have to have the story the way that Anthony Smith does, where it's, hey, I've been at the top, kind of fallen off. Now I'm working my way back up there. Now that he's the main event, there's going to be a lot more eyes on this than, especially in an emerging time for the UFC. There's going to be a lot more eyes on it than in previous years. So there may be that extra little drive within him, in order to get that next fight that could lead me to title contention, I have to do something slightly more spectacular here. He's not a dumb guy. Like I said, he's a nerd. So this might be sitting in the back of his mind, where and that's not just because of his stupid little glasses, that don't really fit his face right. He seems like a really nice guy, but I think he wants to get people invested into the Anthony Smith story, and that would be the way to do it. Joe, what are you thinking about that?
I'm thinking the same thing as you boys are. Especially with what you're saying about him, Keith. You're saying he's a smart guy. He's not dumb. He's just like how we used to do it. Especially for football, he's gonna study that film. He's gonna find that opening. Find whatever he can get that one up on his opponent. I think it's gonna come down to probably a decision. I would like to see a full fight with both of them, but definitely thinking Anthony Smith taking this one.
Yeah, I mean, another reason why I think that he could end up finishing this one is also because, like we're saying, he's a smart guy. He's also a realistic guy where he could be rolling into a third or fourth round, and he knows that Ryan Spann is beating him on the feet or outstriking him, and he might be saying in the back of his mind, there's only one way that I get the win now. I'm down on the points. I'm down on the cards, and that might be by a finish. And he might start trying to really pursue those openings and really try to use his jiu-jitsu skills in those situations. So do you want to run down our picks one last time, Tom?
Yeah, so I am taking Anthony Smith in the main event. Then I'm taking Jan Kutalaba, Mandy Boom, Arman Sarukian, I am taking Joaquin Buckley. I am taking Mike Rodriguez. I am taking we didn't talk about it much, but I'm taking Pandy Kniziad. I am taking Nicholas Mata and Montel Jackson.
Yeah, so we've got all the same main card picks. The only things that we slightly different, like I do really agree with your prelim locks. I'm also taking Hannah 24K Goldie, and I'm taking Rangju. Those are my prelim picks. So, guys, I do want to say thank you very much for joining me tonight. Tom, I'm sorry for ribbing you a bit for your side effects before, but hopefully nothing too serious happens. I saw Nicki Minaj on Twitter talking about how her Trinidadians, cousins, friends, his balls got really swollen. So if your balls do get really, really swollen like that, make sure you send all your friends a picture, because who knows when they go back down. It might be really cool to have elephantitis for a day or two. Like that South Park episode, you can wheel them around in a wheelbarrow. That would be sweet.
Send prayers, man. Send prayers.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope you don't get swollen ball, at least not too swollen, or swollen balls for the right reason, not because of a side effect.
We'll see, man. We will see.
Yeah, and I do just want to say that today we lost a legend. We lost Norm Macdonald. We're filming this on Tuesday, the 14th. Not sure when it's going to go up, but Norm Macdonald, absolute legend, one of the funniest people to ever walk this earth. And he had a very long and private battle with cancer. And one way that Norm Macdonald kind of connects to our show that I felt like, it was pretty necessary to bring his name up. Not only was he one of the funniest people ever, I mean, go look up the moth joke on Conan O'Brien's show, or him talking about murders in the White House on The View and making all those women like scream because they thought they were going to lose their jobs. But also because pretty much since the existence of Twitter, he was on there talking about sports gambling and sports betting. And so, we're going to do our best to try and honor Norm Macdonald, just carry on the good picks. And, because he had some good ones throughout the years. I'm pretty sure he picked Morikawa to win the U.S. Open for golf a couple months ago. That was like his last big pick that I saw. But, rest in peace, Norm Macdonald. Thanks for making us laugh. You were a hell of a dude, and dream guest, in my opinion. Definitely a guy that we would have liked to have on. Not that we don't like having Joe and guys like Marcellus Wallace and Pat Ball on here, but Norm Macdonald, he would have. I think we would have had to quit the show if we ever had Norm Macdonald on here. It would have been incredible.
It would have been nuts. It would have been something. I was actually thinking about that today. It's like, these people die in, it's like, well, I'll never, ever get to meet or see Norm Macdonald do stand-up live, and that's, it's obviously, a bummer to lose anybody, but, just, I guess for that own selfish reason too. It's just, it sucks, man. Life's too short. Cherish everyone while you can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Joe, you got anything to say about Norm? Were you a Norm fan?
I wasn't the biggest Norm fan, but a few of my friends were, and they were blowing up, our chat today, and they were just saying how just devastated they all were. They were really big fans. They loved his SNL stuff, and it's just 2 words: sad day.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of SNL, the best host of the Weekend Update of all time. Now the show's really fallen off, but Norm Macdonald, he was a very special guy. So with all that being said, sorry to end it on a slightly sad note. I wish I had a joke here to end it on, but I don't. There's no funny way to end that. Please please subscribe, comment down below, what you think of our picks, whether you love them, you hate them, you think we suck, or you think we're some of the best UFC handicappers out there. Comment down below. Let us know. Guys, thanks for joining me tonight. And make sure you check out pickandwinners.org. So take it easy.